Hey, my name's Jack, and I have another build for the Season 11 close beta of Project Diablo 2. So, we have gotten some changes specifically for Blade Fury. And when you read this, you will read something new. 50% chance split when hitting enemies, and what has gotten changed is Blade Fury has been reworked so that it shattered sub-missile when now also bunch of walls and split into more sub-missiles. Each time a missile splits, the range of the new missile is reduced. Blade Fury reworked so that its bounced missiles will now take the player's missile angle into consideration, allowing for better aiming. And then we had a synergy buff from 12% to 15%, and Blade Fury has a 50% chance for the missile to split when hitting an enemy. So this makes Blade Fury super viable. And we can go right in the skill build. It's pretty straightforward. Blade Sentinel and Blade Shield are synergies for Blade Fury. So we'll be maxing all three of these. And then in the Shadow Discipline, we will go for Claw Dagger Master. The attack rating on Claw and Dagger Master does not apply, but the damage and the critical strike chance does, so it's super worth it. As Blade Fury mostly scales with enhanced damage, so we will be getting as much enhanced damage as possible. So we'll be also getting Burst of Speed, 1 value point in Fate early on. That's really nice for the resistance and PDR and stuff. And 1 value point in Venom for some extra damage. And that is pretty much the skill tree. Nothing more going on there. The stats, let me go over the equipment first. We'll be using an Ethereal Flash Ripper with ED jewels in them. This is pretty much the highest damage option you have. As I said, all of this, like added damage, added physical, all that stuff doesn't work, right? What works is ED, and you need it as much as possible. So we'll be using the Flash Ripper, and it has a really nice 50% Deadly Strike, 25% Crushing Blow, and 225 to 275 ED. And again, Ethereal, we'll be using Ethereal because the ability Blade Fury doesn't use up durability with using it doesn't use durability with Blade Fury, right? So we can Ethereal it, which gives us more damage. Then G-Phase is just the best, right? It gives Deadly Strike, Crushing Blow, FHR, and really nice all-res. These two items together are pretty much almost already max Deadly Strike. You'll be reaching 75% max Deadly Strike when you'll have a Vedongo, not a Vedongo, a Nosferatu coil instead of a Vedongo. That way you can reach maximum Deadly Strike. The increased attack speed is actually not useful on Blade Fury because the way that it works, increased attack speed only increases the wind-up time of the Blade Fury, not the actual channeling, because it is a channeled ability, right? So if you remove this now, you can see there's basically no change. It's only for the wind-up. Still, the wind-up is important because it gives you clear speed. You don't want to be stuck in the wind-up animation. Then chest piece, Chains of Honor is by far the best. To all skills is really nice because it has also recently gotten buffed. We have not 200% to damage to demons, 0% damage to undead. All resistance, some PDR, magic, fine strength, can't go really wrong with that. Another option is to go not for an Enigma, you go for Fortitude for the ED, or a little bit of a cheaper option, but in the end you do really want to go for Chains of Honor. We'll be using Atma Scarab for the amplified damage, mostly. We'll be triggering amplified damage on striking ourselves, which is also really nice because it triggers on all of the splitted projectiles. Everything will be amplified damaged all the time. This is also one-handed, as how Blade Fury works. The damage doesn't apply correctly from an offhand weapon. So we'll be using a Phoenix Rune Word, mainly for the ED. It also has some nice other things like Redemption Aura, which will give us a lot of health and mana. Firestorm on striking is really nice, and life, maximum lightning and fire res, and of course enhanced defense. We'll be using a Monarch, and we also be hitting maximum possible chance to block. This is not correct because I'm not buffed right now. Pretty much The problem with Monarch is that it takes a lot of dexterity to hit max block with it because the base block is only 22%. You could be thinking about using like an Aegis or Ward, which is A5 Hell Shields. But the problem is they have a really high strength requirement, and honestly, it's just you don't want to invest too much into strength, right? We want to put as much as possible into vitality and dexterity. So strength until requirement, and that's how that's gonna work. And then dex for mainly for maximum block chance 75%, and then the rest just you dump it into vitality. The gloves, we'll be using soul drainers. These are by far the best, honestly, because of the enemy physical resistance and the monster defense per hit. It also has dual leech on it. The other options, honestly, not as good. Another option is Grave Palm early on to hit Deadly Strike cap. Dracul's Grasp, kinda You already don't care so much about the lifesteal, and that is pretty much it. The other ones you don't care about. Rainfrost, just for the cannot be frozen. If you don't have a cannot be frozen corruption anywhere, you will probably get a cannot be frozen corruption on a G phase. Except if you don't have sockets, right? Either you get sockets or you get cannot be frozen. You can also get it on an Atma Scarab. You can get cannot be frozen on an amulet. It is really rare though. It's one of the most. It's like 8%, 10% chance to get cannot be frozen on an amulet. The best setup would be 3 sockets on G phase and then cannot be frozen on the Scarab. That way, you can replace this Ravenfrost with a Bolkathos. Nosferatu Coil already said Deadly Strike. Like the strength is really nice to hit cap, right? Other than that, you can also go for Verdungos if you use, for example, some other boots like Gore Riders instead of these. Right, you can use Gore Riders, and then you will hit Deadly Strike cap really easily, and you can replace it with Verdungos, and then fix the SDR. I'll be using Sandstorm Track. These boots are really nice. They have gotten a little bit nerfed, actually. They have gotten their poison resistance reduced, and it also have gotten their stamina. Maximum stamina has also been removed, and instead we now have +4 to maximum poison rest. This might be changing, but the boots are really nice. They get faster run up, faster hit recovery, strength, vitality, enhanced defense, all that stuff. Pretty good boots overall, and they also help us again with the strength requirement for the Phoenix Runeward mostly. That is pretty much the equipment. Let me go over the charms. It's pretty straightforward. We'll be using Trapper charm since we are a Blade Through build. We're trying to get as high as possible. So here, traps with FHR is on the suffix row to hit the 86 FHR breakpoint, which should be really easy. And then the rest, life charms. I have one Aura Resistance charm in here to hit the maximum Aura Resistance together with the 3 Umrums in the G phase. And then Aura Resistance, FHR or life charms, depending on how your FHR needs are. Then in our swap, we will be having our Call to Arms for the nice buffing, and together with a Littlest Wall for the +2. And we also will have a Demon Limb for the Enchant Fire. Not because we have Phoenix Runeward, simply because it's extra damage, right? It's a nice damage buff. That is pretty much the equipment. Let's go over to the Merc. The Merc actually have a bunch of options. You have 3 options. So you can go for an Act 1 Merc over here, and you'll be wanting a Fire Vigor Merc, which is really nice for helping with map clear. You can go for the Merc that I'm using, which is an Act 2 Merc, where you have 2 options: Defiance or Blessed Aim. You can use your Merc as a tank if you go for Defiance, or you can go for Blessed Aim. You'll still be pretty tanky, but you probably won't be needing Blessed Aim because you have such high attack rating from hitting chance to block cap, right? And then the last one is a big damage Merc, which is the Act 5. The Act 5 Might Merc. So here, this guy, and you'll be giving him probably like the full Immortal King set, and then he will do a bunch of damage. That is pretty much how that will go. Yeah, so for the Merc, I decided to go with the Act 2 Merc. I'll be using a Pride rune work for the concentration aura. It also has some other nice stuff like freeze target on hit, and it will make the Merc actually do a decent amount of damage. Right, 500 to 8,000, right? So then we're using a Vamp Gaze. You will laser hammer the helmet, and you will put whatever resistance fix you have in there. You can also use an Amrun, we have one over. The boots, pretty straightforward. Triple rest boots for hitting resistance caps. Vidongos for PDR. Templar's Might. This is wrong, it's not supposed to be a 3, it's supposed to be a 1 socket. And you will also be using a laser hammer on the Templar's Might, and then putting a Hell Rune in it, which reduces the requirements of the strength needs for this to 198, so the Merc will be able to use it. Right? You can then, like, you can not use these Dracula, but Draculas are really nice on Merc, because they give a nice amount of lifesteal, 12% on maximum 8 to 12. And the strength can be nice to hit the Templar's Might if your Merc is low on strength, to be able to equip the Templar's Might. The Act 1 Merc, if you're going for an Act 1 Merc, I wouldn't recommend using Witch Wild Strength for the Amplified Striking. I'd use the, what's it called, the rune word that gives you Fanatism. That is probably the best use. It's expensive. It is expensive for sure, but I think the Fanatism rune word for the bow is by far the best. What's it called again? Faith, right? The Faith rune word. It uses an Olm and a Jar rune, but I think that's the best. And then you go on the Act 1 Merc for like about the same stuff. Probably not the Templar's Might, because the Act 1 Merc is low in strength. You'll be probably putting in like anything else that would either give you an aura or like a fortitude rune work or something that makes you survivable. A Shaft Stop, Arcane's Valor, right? Something like that. And the rest will pretty much stay the same, so the Act 1 Merc doesn't die. So let me show you how this works. Let me show you the buffing. So we'll be using Blade Shield, Venom, then either Burst of Speed or Fate. I'll be using Burst of Speed here for the movement speed for the clear. And then we'll be using the Heart of Wolverine from the Wisp Projector. We'll go over here and we will swap out the Bell of Arms with the Enchant Fire from Demon Limb. Put it back into the cube, and now we are fully buffed. I've been testing this a little bit. Let me show you how it looks. It works especially well on large groups. As you can see, the projectiles just instantaneously like split and kill everything. You can also just throw the projectiles yourself by holding shift. That way you don't need to click specifically on any of the enemies. The fire on the gun is honestly just extra. Most of the damage is coming from physical. But we can kill physical immunes, because Amplified Striking will just remove the physical immunity. I'd say this looks really good, and like things are dying like specifically very fast though. Let me see if we can get to the boss, so I can see how good this looks on the boss as well. Things die extremely fast, I do have to say. I'm really thinking about league starting this, or season starting, however you want to call it. As the boss, Calcreen. She is actually dying quite fast. So this looks really good for sure. that was the gameplay showcase. Yeah, I'd say this is a great change to Blade Fury. I've been always wanting an assassin ability, like a throwing ability, right? Like Barbarian has a throwing build. Why does Assassin not have a throwing build? And I think this kind of fits the need. It's not a true throwing build because it's not using throwing weapons and stuff like that, but it feels good enough for me. That's the video. If you like, leave a like, please subscribe. See you around.